Very aggressive questioning by Susan Necheles of Stormy Daniels, Trump's attorney, basically trying to get across that Stormy Daniels is an opportunist, has made a lot of money off of this alleged encounter with Donald Trump. There was evidence she introduced of the Make America Horny Again tour that she went on, and the fact that she has profited.
Stormy Daniels finished testifying in the Trump hush money trial today, with the defense, meaning the lawyers representing Donald Trump, asking her some questions on the stand. But was her performance today any better than Tuesday's, which we did critique for lots of reasons, namely focused heavily on personal details about their sexual interaction? Well, let's discuss what happened today. So we start by reiterating what we've previously emphasized, okay? So Donald Trump is facing very specific charges having to do with falsifying records in order to cover up a crime. Now, the crime was campaign finance violations. As it pertains to Stormy Daniels, Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, paid her $130,000 to basically hush up about the sexual encounter that they had. And so Trump falsified records in order to cover that up. That is the charge that he is facing. Stormy Daniels knows nothing about the falsifying records part. So the details about their sexual interaction is really irrelevant to proving the charges against Trump. So with that in mind, here's what happened on Tuesday. So that was clear on Tuesday, okay? Let's talk about what happened today. More than 2 hours after the trial started Thursday, meaning today, defense attorney Susan Necheles asked Stormy Daniels about the alleged falsified financial documents at the core of the indictment against Donald Trump. Daniels confirmed on the stand that she last spoke with Trump in 2007. Then the lawyer asked if Daniels had knowledge of Trump's involvement in the payment made to her in 2016 to ensure she would not go public about their alleged sexual encounter. Not directly, Daniels replied, no. Daniels testified she doesn't really understand what Trump is charged with. Quote, there's a lot of indictments, she said, with a shrug, adding that she doesn't know anything about Trump's business records. And really the tactic or the strategy by the defense team here was to discredit Stormy Daniels as a witness. And so, in my opinion, the only reason why the judge allowed for Stormy Daniels to testify against Donald Trump and allow prosecutors to bring her to the stand is because Trump has denied that he ever had a sexual encounter with her. If he had admitted that they had a sexual encounter, then it really wouldn't make any sense for her to testify. But since he denies it, that's why the prosecution was able to bring her forward on the stand to testify about their sexual relationship.
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that she's relevant for. Did they have a relationship? Did anyone tell her why she's getting the money? So those are super relevant to falsifying the business records. But the Trump legal team made a huge mistake, and the judge talked about that today. He didn't call it a huge mistake, but he said the only reason why he's allowing any testimony about the sex acts at all, and he does not like that talk. He tries to limit it as much as he can when Trump's attorneys object. He usually sustains their objection. In fact, he said to about Trump's lawyer, he's like, I don't know why you didn't object to the condomless sex part. And he said, I would have definitely sustained that objection, but you didn't object, right? So she's screwing, because that's the problem with Donald Trump. He hires lawyers that are barely lawyers, because no one in their right mind will work for this lunatic who has no evidence to back him up, expects his lawyers to break the law and lie for him, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, but the main problem was Trump's lawyers, because this is what Trump's story is, denied that they even had sex. So in legal terms, that opens the door to a discussion about whether they had sex or not. And that's what led in all of these salacious details about their affair. If Trump's lawyers had just said, and if Trump himself had just said, well, yes, it was an indiscretion, it was terrible, I wanted to hide it from my wife, but of course we had an affair, I'm not denying that, then they wouldn't have allowed any of this into the trial. Right. Instead, the idiot, because he can't say anything that's true, opened the door to all of this coming out in the trial.
Yeah, but look, that analysis is correct. That is the reason why she testified. But he's not on trial for having a sexual relationship.
Absolutely, and so I had a conversation with Don Lemon this morning about that on his show. And the conventional wisdom is that if you make the defendant look bad emotionally to the jury, they're gonna wanna rule against them, right? And so for some on the jury, I'm sure that is what happened when they heard some of the terrible details of the way he conducted himself personally, right? But I think that it could be counterproductive in this case because it's such an important case, and I think the jury understands that it's an important case, and they've been told 1,000 times by the judge and others, make sure that you're unbiased about this. Do you know this about Trump or this about Biden or this about Stormy? Like they went through this rigorous process. They understand the weightiness of this case. So they might look at it and go, what are we talking about this for? It looks like they're trying to just get the guy.
Right.
Because they've heard probably Trump say 1,000,000 times, they're just out to get me. And so now when you have people that are like saying all sorts of terrible things about him that aren't pertinent to the trial, that might put that thought in the jury's head and might be counterproductive.
So let me give you some examples, and I do not enjoy reading these exchanges that happened in court today, especially this first graphic that I'm gonna read to you. So Trump attorney Susan Necheles asked Stormy Daniels about her experience in adult film. Daniels said she directed 150 sex films, give or take. At that point, Trump's lawyer responds back with, you have a lot of experience making phony stories about sex.
That's so dumb.
Daniels replies, wow, that's not how I would put it. The sex in the films is very much real, just like what happened to me in that room. Necheles then asked Daniels if she had a lot of experience memorizing fictional stories and if she was telling a story about Trump. If that story was untrue, I would have written it to be a lot better, Daniels said. So like I give you that exchange to show what the tactic or the strategy by the Trump legal team is. It's to discredit her and to make it appear as though the entire sexual interaction was completely made up and this is a woman that can't be trusted.
They're, as always, they're blowing it. They're taking, in my opinion, getting, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. I thought that she made Trump slightly more sympathetic rather than the reverse after her testimony.
Yeah.
In some ways, right?
On the first day, yeah.
Yeah, and if you're unfamiliar with Trump, then no. Oh my God, he does this to women. But almost everybody's familiar with Trump and what he does to women, right? So now Trump's lawyers are giving the advantage back because they're attacking her for her sex life. That's not gonna work at all. The jury's now gonna be mad at them. And for her line of work, etc., I don't think that's gonna work. Like there you going with the, this is a porn star. Can you believe anything she says?
I agree with you. I do think that they definitely made a mistake there. But they also tried to focus on how Stormy Daniels, obviously this is how they're trying to paint her, but the Trump team tried to make it seem as though she's motivated by her financial interest in pursuing these allegations against Trump. So Susan Necheles, again, that's Trump's attorney, basically elicited from Stormy Daniels that her book contract, which came out after her 60 Minutes interview, was for $800,000 and asked whether the main reason she was paid for the book was her story about having sex with Trump. So that's, again, part of their tactic. This is all about the money. As for Make America Horny Again, that was the name of Stormy Daniels's strip club tour back in 2018. Necheles argued that this was more evidence of Daniels trying to cash in on her connection with Trump. Daniels also testified that she did not like the name and never used it, even though some promoters had used it. However, Necheles then showed evidence of Daniels referring to the tour by that name in 2 Instagram posts. And at that point, on the witness stand, Daniels had to concede that those 2 posts were indeed hers. So there were some foibles, I believe, by the Trump team today. But there were also some moments that didn't look great for Stormy Daniels.
But the whole strategy is wrong, Anna. And the reason I say that is not just for all the things we just stated, but because they're trying to prove that she didn't have sex with Trump. That's a super losing strategy because everybody knows they had sex. So that's pushing a boulder up a hill. You don't want to do that when you're the defense. You want to make it as easy for the jury as possible to believe your side.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If they're trying to get them to believe that they didn't have sex at all, the jury's never gonna believe that. Then that makes Trump less credible, not more credible. So they're bungling this massively. And on that thing about making up stories about sex and because she directed adult movies and stuff, there's people who were in real movies, regular movies, that with sex scenes in them, and Harvey Weinstein raped them. They didn't make up the story about Harvey Weinstein raping them.
Right.
So those 2 things are not logically connected at all. So I think they got a gift horse and they looked it in the mouth. And so that's a weird saying to put in here, but like they actually caught a break in a trial. They never catch a break because they never have any evidence. He's always guilty, right? And here they actually had a break and he bungled it as usual because he's a serial bungler. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.